Okay. I think in your TED talk, you talked a little bit about suicidal ideation.
Mhm.
And so we want to kind of touch on that again here. So, in your opinion, is suicidal ideation a normal response to complex trauma and navigating the challenges of this life, especially as marginalized folks? And then, like, how do you approach this topic in your wellness spaces? I'm super curious about this.
Yeah, this is a
Like
controversial topic, y'all. This is
wildly
this is
curious.
this is a hot topic right now.
Hot shit right now. Yeah.
Yeah, it's because it's suicide,
Prevention month.
prevention
Yeah.
Yeah.
awareness month,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
so I wrote a post on one of them socials. I think I end up posting. I think I write on Twitter or Facebook, and then I post it everywhere. And they're like, "You're supposed to
Everywhere,
Mhm.
yeah.
post pictures on Instagram, not." I'm like, "Yo, I just let me do what I did.
Yeah,
Right? Let me
leave me
do what I
alone.
did." Right? But I talked about this idea of suicide and how I'm not against, suicide.
Yeah.
Right. Just I'm talking about the actual act of suicide. Now, when we talk about suicidal ideation, something I experienced for a very long time, right? This thought perseveration, which was really rooted in anxiety, right? And
Yeah.
so
Mhm.
getting
Yep.
an idea into my head and I couldn't let it go.
Mhm.
Right. And so and being, at times on the verge of wanting to die by suicide. But
Mhm.
thankfully something within me didn't let me go that next step, right? Because for me, it would have been potentially avoiding things as opposed to just a decision I'm making with a clear heart, a clear mind, and a clear head,
Yeah.
which there are folk who do. There are it's this one writer. I can't remember her name, but she's I think she's a European writer, and she died by suicide. And she penned this letter. She said, "Listen, I feel good. I'm not depressed. I'm not anxious. I'm not experiencing none of that. I just feel like, yo, I feel good about this, right?"
That's a
And
good, that's a good run.
she died by suicide. Right now, is that an outlier? Potentially, right?
Yes.
We know
Maybe.
when it comes to just suicide, they say that many people who die by suicide have a treatable mental health disorder. So we talk
Mhm.
about things like depression, right? But
Mhm.
when we talk about okay, so we say that we have that statement, and again, this doesn't take into to consideration societal factors that play a part. You're trying to tell me if I'm a Palestinian over there and I'm watching my folk,
Right.
my
That's
generations being wiped out
wiped off by bunker
exactly
busters.
by these people, and I'm just
Hmm.
like, yo, you know what? If I'm
Fuck
gonna
it.
leave here, I'm gonna leave here on my own
On
accord.
my own
Right.
terms.
You know what I'm
Absolutely.
saying?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm listen, I'm out.
Yeah.
And so who am I to say that
You
somebody's
shouldn't do.
wrong for that, right? And
Right.
that's why I don't use that language when it
Mhm.
comes to that. For the person who got me, and I talked about it in the TED talk, who really got me out here to really have these conversations and now be in these spaces that I find myself. This young brother Emmanuel Sloan,
Mhm.
who died by suicide. He was about 19 and he jumped in front of a train. And when I was able to read what his sister words were, I was able to meet one of his close homies and who was on his team, and me and him built a rapport to where we can have conversations about mental health over the years. You know what I mean? It was, I wish I knew, right? I wish I knew what he was experiencing. Um, but it was his desire for, as I said, his desire for something greater that he felt he couldn't get here. Right. Again, who am I to say that he's wrong? I wish he would have heard my voice. Not to say that I'm, some person who could just get some eyes or something, right? But would it have him rethink? I wonder if I would have heard some folk who would have had the language to have these types of discussions, if that would have impacted me to say, you know what, yeah, maybe I need to have some conversations. Maybe I need to not take 15 credits and take 12 credits, and
Yeah.
and not attach my worthiness to some
Productivity.
exactly
Yeah.
some external bull job, and
Some
recognize
capitalist bullshit. Yeah.
exactly
Yep.
the mere fact that I breathe
Yeah.
is
A
enough.
miracle.
You know what I'm
Yes.
saying? And anything that happens after that is cool. But this conversation when it comes to suicidal ideations, I think there's starting to be a shift that's happening right? But again, when we talk about a treatable mental health disorder, all right, cool, depression. Now, what if I'm impoverished, right?
Right.
If I'm barely making it,
Right.
if I'm stressed because of somebody got killed by the police, and I'm seeing all this trauma on a day-to-day basis. It's just treatable, just like that.
Right. And
Like
it's
I'm
like,
just
what is
gonna
that?
be I'm gonna be cool. Like, no, this
Yes.
is some of it is definitely a byproduct of everything that we absorb. You know what I'm
That's
saying?
right.
Like, we on our phones 24/7. Like, how can somebody not say, well, dang, I ain't got the muscles like everybody I see for the 30, 50 hours that I'm on the phone, and that not impact my self-esteem, that not impact my mood, that not
Right.
impact how I engage with
Yeah.
folks, or the lack of
Yeah.
interaction that I have with people. So I think it's
Yeah.
just there's, again, there continues to be a lack of conversation when it comes to why somebody may have suicidal ideations. Is it something organic, right? Is it something
Mm-hmm.
biological, or is it a
Is it
result
something
of all the things
in the environment?
that they have to navigate? I asked this question, and y'all feel free to respond. You know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? Like, I watched that debate, and I was like, damn, if I'm a poor black person, poor Chinese person, poor white person, I'm watching this, it's just like, well, damn, it's just like, what's the name in The Color Purple? Is there any mail for me? Like, is
Right.
anybody
Right.
going to talk to what I'm experiencing, or is it just the middle class, or do you just think that because I'm poor, I aspire to be into the middle class? You know what I'm saying?
Mm.
Like, but it's nothing speaking to me. Who, listen, I don't
That's
have
right.
money, I don't have housing, I don't have anything, I'm homeless, I'm like, nobody cares.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
can't have suicidal ideations
Right.
Right.
because of that, and think like,
Yeah.
yo, it's better if I'm just not here, because what is treatable, right? But it's
Right.
not
Yeah.
Right.
treatable. We're gonna get you a crib, we're gonna give you bread, we're gonna do all of these things.
Gotta get you healthcare.
Yeah, we're
Yeah.
gonna give you some medication, and we're gonna keep the party
Mm-hmm.
going.
Right.
Yep. That's
So
right.
I have a question, which is like, how much do you think, or like, in what ways does this like rugged individualism that we're all suffering from because of America like lead into or have anything to do with this, like the question about suicidal ideation and like and treatable diseases or like in treatable conditions? Did that make sense? Am I going
No,
insane?
Yeah.
Okay.
it makes
Yep.
complete sense, right? It's just like, if I don't have $1 million, whose fault is that? It's Phil's fault. Nobody else's fault but Phil's. I didn't do what? I didn't work hard enough, right?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't do all the things. Nobody's saying this because I was born, the socioeconomic status, the class that you're born into is typically the one you die
You
in,
die into. Yeah.
right? And so you're not necessarily, ain't too many people moving up the chain when we talk about class. So now it's just like, damn, if I don't do it, it's if I don't get the American dream, it's because of me.
I
You
didn't
know what
pull
I'm
Right.
myself
saying?
up my bootstraps enough.
Exactly. Or if I'm cold. And so how does that impact things? Well, if I'm navigating something, it's on me. Everything
Right.
is on me. If I don't learn, it's on me. If I don't do X, Y, and Z, it's on me. And when we talk about black men specifically, if my family is hungry, it's because of me. It ain't because of the systems, because I might not even have with that level of that cognitive wherewithal to be able to put two and two together. Or if I did, nobody really cares,
Mm.
right? It's about what can you produce, right? And that's what
That's
it is.
right.
That's what
That's right.
capitalism is. Can you
Yeah.
produce, or can you not produce?
That's right.
So when I go with, like, I've interviewed for some full-time assistant professor positions at some schools, I think 3 over the last like 5 months or whatever, right? And so it's just like, I leave the initial one, they like, oh yeah, we want to have you for another one. They have me for another one, right? And I show up as authentically me as possible, right? Because you can't be authentic. So I mean, and again, that's another lie we gotta stop telling
Yeah.
folks. You could show up 100% authentic. You can't. That's just not how it is
That's
work.
not how it
Especially not if
works.
you're black or brown, right? Like
Exactly.
they will literally throw you out with fire.
That's right.
Exactly. Because I mean, ultimately, like, I couldn't show up my 100%. Like, I don't get. I don't wear clothes in the crib. It's just not what I do. It's me
Seriously.
here. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Right.
I roll, but I can't show up on here 100% authentically myself.
Right.
Because you could be like, yo, what's up with all the chest
We
hairs
live in a
popping up?
society,
You know
and
what I mean?
that
Some people might
society
like
of
it. Some
rules.
people like, I don't know what's,
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? But again, that
I
goes to,
appreciate that. Yeah, hell yeah.
but this good, hey, don't come at, you said the chest hairs, is that what,
It's like,
you know, but
leave
this
me
goes
alone.
into the, you know, how everything is sexualized anyway, right? Because the purpose of clothes was supposed to be for the weather, not for anything
For
else.
keeping you warm, right?
Exactly.
Like, what does society have to do about the weather? Yeah.
Exactly. But with these jobs, and it's just like, nah, we good. Matter of fact, they don't even tell you, right? They don't even hit you up. They're like, you may hear from us, you know what I mean? Do a
You may
teaching
not.
demonstration. They don't have it's not the courtesy of, listen, sir, we decide to go in a different direction. It's just like, damn, out of sight, out of mind.
Ghosted.
What am I supposed to think?
Right.
If I wasn't secure in who I am,
Yep.
right? It's just like, well, damn, am I not good enough?
Mm.
Right? What is it about me where I keep interviewing for these positions and I don't get hired? Nobody sit there and says, well, you know what? You know how many individuals with doctorates that exist in this country? It's a slew of them. It's more folk with doctorates than it is positions to fill them. You know what I mean? So you got 25 people going for one spot. Yeah. But
academia is
again,
brutal these days.
Exactly. But when we think about, like, unless I don't internalize them, again, I'm human. I'm like, yo, what the hell am I not doing?
Yeah.
Right. Where I'm not, you know, am I not worthy? And I don't get into like imposter syndrome. Whenever I see that, it's just like, no, imposter syndrome is just a cool word for white supremacy, capitalism, patriarchy, because all of that is what has me showing up in this way where it's just like, oh, am I good enough? You know what I'm saying? And so calling a thing. But yeah, hopefully that answered your question.
Yeah, I think so. Yes, great stuff. I'm like, I don't quite remember where the question was.
Me neither.
But I'm also like fully on board. I'm fully on board with what we said so far. Yeah, like I'm with you.
Yeah, you definitely answered it.
Yeah, I really feel like, oh, right, suicide, individualism, the thought is it's like it's all on us all the time, and it's so contrary to how things actually are, when that, like, we're just at the sway of systems for the most part, and we have very limited choice in a lot of this, right?
And that's when it goes to like, that's when it comes to like knowledge of self, man, like memory. Like when we start looking, you know, back into our, you know, we ain't even got to go that far back, honestly, right? If we want to talk about, you know, being on plantations and such, there was still a community element. Like that ain't just go away because we you know, we was enslaved by them folk. You know what I mean? That was something that was beaten out of us, conditioned out of us, religioned out of us, over the course of time,
a couple hundred years.
You know what I'm saying? And so, but when we go back to the root of it all, right? That ain't never been how we got down. When we talk about, you know, about queer and I did, like, I don't use terms like masculinity and femininity, right? The divine feminine, and I'm cool.
It all gets weird suddenly. like as soon as anybody's like the divine masculine, I'm like, sir?
Yeah, it's way too binary.
It's weird. I'm like, it's weird. And it's like nothing else on earth happens in this kind of like black and white way, right? So like, why would gender? Also, I say this as like the non-binary, like non-gendered person around. Right. So like, I have lots of thoughts about this.
Yeah, no, but it's just like, yo, what does it mean to help? I always say, you know, forget, you know, mass. I use those terms because that's what folk relate to. But it's like, what does it mean to be a healthy human being?
Truly,
right? Like,
and we bypass that question entirely when we we go right to what is it to be a man or a woman? What is it to be a person?
That's right.
Exactly. And but when we talk about this and the momentum of memory that's just going, like when you start looking back and you start reading, you start seeing different things, you know, things we attribute to women and men, you know, lipstick and earrings. You go back, it was that was the get down, right? It wasn't but then when our history got interrupted for a little bit, you know what I'm saying? It was just like things got shifted around, and now you know, we've internalized it. But you know, this has never been who we are. You know, and so but where are you going to get that information? I don't have an
That's the question.
expectation
That's the
of
question.
these schools to
Mm-hmm.
to teach my daughter or teach
Mm-hmm.
me or teach my teach my son or anything like that. That ain't their responsibility.
That's right.
You know what I mean? It's not.
Yeah.
Mm, mm.
So many good points.
Good stuff here.
So let's bring the conversation back to the shirt you're wearing, the infamous
Ooh.
shirt, which we love.
I want to hear about it.
Yeah, it says, "This is what anxiety looked like." For those of you who cannot see the podcast, and we know that is this your merch, first of all? Is this
Oh yeah, yeah,
for you
it's
still?
it's my merch. Listen, back when times was rough,
Shameless.
the merch sales helped the brother pay the mortgage. You know what I'm saying?
Uh-huh.
It definitely. You can catch it on my website, _LLC.net. But yeah, it's something that I created probably about around like whenever I did the TED Talk, like probably right before that, like 2016, 2017. It was just I felt it was an accurate representation of, again, I hate because it's based off like the DSM and the disorders, and it's just nasty work in itself. But it does, speak to just some symptoms and things that have been agreed upon within society of what it's supposed to look like, supposedly, right? And that's not me. That hasn't been me. So when I wear this is what depression looks like, this is what anxiety looks like. Phil, listen, I got all the degrees, right? People don't know I was navigating suicidal ideations throughout that time where I'm just continuing to achieve and do all these things, being it's even hard for me to say, like me being a all right dad, you know what I mean? Like it's hard for me to say a great dad because it's like, listen, we are Black men. We're so critical of how we show up in the parental space. So I can't even fathom saying that I'm a great father. I got to ask my co-parents who are part of my tribe, right? Like, yo, am I all right? Yo,
Am I doing
don't
this
ask
okay?
me that. You
That's
know what I'm saying?
good. That's good.
But the part of that is just the impact of the stigmas that are associated with folk, Black men as parents, as fathers, even though we're
So
most
fraught.
involved in all of those things. And so for me, it was, I don't, I'm not sleeping in the bedroom for days on end necessarily. I'm not in public settings. I can be mad anxious, and part of that comes across. I might be mad talkative, not right now, but I had a lot of caffeine today. That's why I'm super talkative right now. And then it's something that I care about, right? This conversation. But it can manifest itself in that way. But when it comes to like this textbook look, because when you look at, you got Psychology Today, right? They have a magazine. The magazine has been coming out since the early 1990s.
Yep.
There's been, I feel comfortable saying, less than 5, probably less than 3 Black person on the cover of that magazine.
Yep.
So what does this say? Right. And this is where it's like, that's where Black folk like, oh, depression not a Black folk thing. Why? Because every representation we see of it is white people.
Right.
And so for me, it was just, listen, I'm living in my truth. I am who I am. Right. I feel comfortable in who I am. Either you accept it or you don't. But what I realized in wearing the merch is, there is this idea of shared humanity that comes across. I remember I had my depression shirt on. I go to Uncle Bobby's, a bookstore here in Philly a lot. And this was like pre-pandemic, like 2018, something like that. I was walking, I was in there, coming from the bathroom. This white woman was just like, "Oh, you're depressed?" And initially I'm like,
white women.
I'm like, yo, like, what? I'm like, but I was like, you know what? I was like, yes. She's like, oh, me too. She was like, well, what do you do for? I was like, so here, me and this 67-year-old white woman having this conversation. She's telling me, yo, you know what? I have this art studio down the street. If you ever want to come by and I just be painting and stuff down there. Yeah, in there, you want to come?
This turned out better than I thought it was going to.
Yeah, but
Definitely.
It'll work because we know how some of them could be. But again, no matter what we see on the debate, right? The debate show and that took place a couple of days ago. A lot of us are more alike than we think. We have more things in common than we think. So probably me and this, if I had a white tee on or a black tee, me and this white lady would have walked past each other. and kept going instead of
Mhm.
engaging in conversation.
Good
I had
point.
this I had this t-shirt on in the gym, right? And it was an Asian man and his wife, they was getting trained, and it was like, oh, it's like that's a funny shirt. It's like you don't look like you have anxiety. I was like, oh, that's the point,
That's the
right? Like
point.
that's the point. And he was like, yeah, because it's for
It's
somehow
the
like
point.
folk
Yeah.
don't put two and two together. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like, well, you
And
know what? Yeah, it doesn't necessarily. I say all that to say, I wear it to show that it doesn't have a look. You know what I mean? You
right,
see so many people who are doing what folk consider amazing things, but you never know what they navigate. And like Robin
right.
Williams was hilarious. You see, I always
We
got to go to the white person, right?
right,
You know what I'm
right,
saying? That's how we've
Hmm.
been conditioned to go to the white person. But I feel like he's definitely an exemplar, right? Because we know him as being this smiling,
Yeah.
gregarious
yeah,
individual, and it's just like,
yeah.
yeah,
Lights up a room and
exactly.
yeah. We never know what like none of us look like what we've been through.
Right.
And I think also this is like particularly prominent for Black folks because like people think that we are one way, we have one look about us, and because like anxiety or depression might look different for us because we've had to be in different spaces and navigate it, then no one ever thinks about it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I just think it's really important just to continue to bring that awareness to the surface that we don't really know what anxiety and depression looks like in each other. And many of us are really just holding it together. And to just be conscious of that. We don't know what anyone is dealing with. You know
Nope.
what I mean? We're all showing up every day doing the best that we can. So I just love the
Yes,
humanity of that.
truly,
Word.
totally. Word. I like that. Sorry. So what role does understanding Black mental health play in shaping the next generation towards liberation, and in particular Black men?
Yeah. So, excuse me.
Mm,
So, when we talk about this idea of liberation in Black men, it's important that, and I hate how I feel like heal has been like co-opted
truly,
It really
people.
has.
You know what I mean? It's just like, are you like, so,
it's like
full.
no one's ever healed.
Yeah, but that's the point exactly, right? So like full disclosure, you know what I mean? Like, I'm single, I'm on these dating sites, these dating apps rather, DMs open, flourishing. Not really, but you know,
Uh-huh.
um, I'm on there and I see, are you healed? And
Yeah.
as soon
Oh,
as I see the heal word, I'm out. You know what I mean? It's just
Mhm.
I get what it is. It's much like I just want, somebody that's masculine and lets me be in my divine feminine. Cause I know what you're trying to say. I just don't like how you're saying it.
Right, right,
truly,
right,
it
right,
gives me
right.
the ick.
You know what I'm saying?
Talk about a brother, ew.
And so, when we talk about just, what healing means, there is no this finite destination. You aren't healed. So when my brother died, God bless the ancestor in 2020, in 2001, I recognize that it's something I'm gonna be navigating until I take my last breath.
Truly.
When I was doing my dissertation and I was writing that story of him and what I was feeling, I was just like, I feel cool right now. So it's an autoethnography. And so what that is, like, I'm writing this memoir that I've been writing for some years now. And I just, chronicling my journey, some of the stories that I talked about in um in the TED talk. And I'm telling the story about my brother and how that impacted me. I know when I wrote it the first time back in like 2017, 2018, I know like I felt like a wave of emotions. When I was, editing it for my dissertation, I was cool. Right. And so part of it was, I ain't gonna bore you with the science behind it. So like I had to triangulate the data, right? And so part of that was using I wrote about my visceral response to rereading something that I wrote in 2018.
Mm.
And so I'm like, yeah, I don't feel anything writing about my brother
Mhm.
dying from opioid use. But what I put was, this doesn't mean anything, right? It's not
Mhm.
saying I don't care. It's not saying that I'm not going to feel something later on. It's not saying any of that. It's just saying right here in this moment that I'm not necessarily feeling anything viscerally, physiologically from it. Now, when I defended my dissertation and I was reading, like, oh, the waterworks started. You know what I mean? The emotions came, and it was because I did it on his birthday. You know, that was
Damn.
important for me. And
Oof,
so, like,
yeah.
all of
Yeah.
these emotions came. Again, I'm not healed from it, but I'm equipped to be able to
Navigate.
navigate whatever comes up, and that's ultimately what
Oof.
healing is. So when the anger
Yes.
comes up, and I'm like, yo, F the system, F all of this, I recognize where that's stemming from, the cause for that. What do I need to do for my body in this moment? It
Yeah.
might be go to the gym to get some anger out. It may be put on some jazz. It may be, you know what? Just sit your ass down and just let the ish go through. You know what I mean? Because it's going to go through. You're going to feel all right. We've all been through,
Yes.
you know, a breakup, unless you're lucky and you just been rolling since birth or whatever, right? Or loss or something like that.
That's
Yeah,
neither of
over
us, I can assure
time,
you.
it goes through your body. We learn how to navigate it. And just
Yeah. Yeah.
hopefully just a part of this journey is you find healthy ways to cope with it, what it is that you're feeling. But
Yeah.
when we talk about just the liberation aspect, yeah, from working through the systemic ish that pops up, you know what I mean, as a result of systemic racism. So now, when I see the cops, my heart not beating 1,000 miles a minute, because wow, what am I doing? Part of my healing journey, is pulling the car over, stepping out, pulling out my phone, just sitting there. You all right, brother? You cool? That's a part of my practice when it comes to navigating the police in certain circumstances, and so then we talk about things like therapy and all of these other things, finding community, also just challenging stigmas, redefining masculinity, if that's something that you adhere to, right? And what does a healthy emotional well-being um truly look like?
Yeah.
And so this is how we go from, I think earlier on you talked about, like, from survival to thriving.
Thriving.
Yeah.
You're not going to hear me say survival not all right. You know what I mean? Survival mean you alive. And that's, listen,
Truly.
as long as you got breath, we could learn to be better,
We can move up.
or
Yeah.
make healthier choices. But you got to
Totally.
be here
We do.
first, and then just taking that from you and then bringing that back to community. So we had Black Men Heal here in Philly, ran by this sister Taz, who's been doing dope things, and they offer free therapy, like 8 free therapy sessions for Black men. And yeah, they got grants and all of these other things. Their requirement is, once you're done the 8 weeks, the 8 sessions, you go back to community and tell somebody. You know
I
what
love
I'm saying? So, because it ain't just about you.
That's right.
It's about us all,
We move
right? And
together.
so, and this is how we break free from those cycles of trauma and oppression.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing is we should not be asking, are you healed on a dating app? We should be asking, how equipped are you to navigate your trauma?
Okay.
Yeah, I mean that too. that too. I mean, I got some other acts too. I ain't
Oh
gonna.
yeah.
Yeah, like, yeah. That's another podcast. I don't know if that's necessarily this one, but yeah, no, completely agree.
Yeah, I
Mm,
think that a lot of that is so important. And it's like we're all in this together in a very real way, right? Like our individual liberation is bound up in our brothers and sisters' liberation, is bound up in like our cousins, right, across the oceans' liberation. Like we have to do our work collectively in order for the work to be done.
Exactly,
mm-hmm.
exactly.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And just
I
to speak about the next generation, I do want to say this is something that my daughter and I were just talking about too recently, is like how the, Gen Z and just those who are coming up are a lot more aware about mental health. They're a lot more knowledgeable than we were coming up, and, our parents and our parents' parents. And I'm sure a lot of that is attributed to just, social media and how information is shared and processed. But I do think that's really important, and it's kind of some light, at the end of the tunnel, so to speak.
yeah.
For sure, for sure. I mean, the light is. the light is there. You know what I mean? It's like, I don't even want to say at the end of the tunnel. You know what I mean? The light is there. It's more so just open our eyes. You know,
Agree.
like
Agree.
like the light
Looking
is
up.
exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's in like those moments, right, that you find connection with someone, you're able to like see that you're both seeing the thing, right? Where like the light shows through.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so much good stuff. This is amazing conversation. And we appreciate you for just taking the time out to talk to us and to share yourself with us. So, this is a question we ask at the end of all of our episodes. So we just want to know, if you have a message about liberation or just anything that you would like to leave with the podcast community as we wrap up our conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I'm just thinking about, I've been thinking a lot about like liberation. I joined this abolition school here in Philly, this 12-week course.
Yeah.
Where, the fundamentals of abolition work. And when we did our introductions, it was, we broke off in groups. So, and it was just the diversity within the room, but especially within our group. So we had this one young fella. He's the only person suspended from Temple University for Palestinian demonstration, right? So he's been suspended, and that's why he's like here. He's just like, listen, I need something to do. You know what I mean? Only person suspended. Then it was a sister who worked she was a journalist. It's funny, I had worked with her, a few years back for something called 𝗕𝗏𝘯𝘓, this news outlet here. And she left her job, and now she's here in this space. Then it was a lawyer who had been doing like a lot of public defense work, and he left that because he's just like, I can't operate within these systems. You know what I'm saying? Like I know the work is necessary, and we need to be in there, but we also can't necessarily do that at the expense of self, right? Because we have to be here to actually be able to do it. And then it was this sister who's figuring out her place in the world and what it is that she wants to do. And so when they asked her, it's just like, well, why are you here? I was just like, being out in these streets, even in like the social media streets, right? I know I'm not going to get the likes. I know I'm going to get pushback.
Same.
I know folk going, when I posted on Facebook about like Kendrick performing at the Super Bowl. And I've been critical of him because when they did the LA Super Bowl, and I say it, I'm phony. Like I watched it, you know what I mean? I watched, so I'm phony, but also a part of me, like when you did the LA set and you self-muted and we hate Popo, that's critical in that song. You did that yourself. And so you said you was standing with Cap, right? And we see how Rihanna changed with that. We see how a lot of folk
I mean, honestly, yeah, like Jay-Z being the NFL's pick now, right? For picking all the musicians and how everything has been like black coded, but not really black focused, right? Like we're not really talking about it. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I bring that up because it's just like, that's isolating because focus is like, well, he's not Drake. He's not openly misogynistic. He's not, and I'm like, and that's where I brought up the point of we need us needing to be challenged one another. I just listened to a song that he dropped yesterday, and the way that he used the B word interchangeably with women, it's just like, yeah, I know he looks better on paper than this other brother.
Right.
Same thing with Kamala in 45. Like I know who 45 is. That's why I can't even give him energy. But you're supposed, but you posit yourself as being the upkeeper of morality,
the failure of identity politics. Truly.
You know what I'm saying? And so you're the people. I believe in you. That's why I criticize you. Right. Same thing Baldwin said about America. Which is interesting, right? But when I post about that, it's just like you hating, you X, Y, and Z. But I say that when it comes to this feeling of feeling isolated. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
so being in that space, and that's why I said I'm here because I feel isolated.
Mm.
Folk don't necessarily think like me in that regard, or folk that do think like, and not to say everybody needs to think like me, right? But we do want to be around like-minded folk from time to
Right.
time. Like I love my friends. Some of my friends don't go to the depths so that they understand the world that they're in from their perspective, which
Right.
is a beautiful thing. But I also needed to be around some folk who understand it where I may not have to break it down so it's consistently or forever broken. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yes.
Um,
Yes.
and so when we talk about that we're talking about things like, liberation, we're talking about just understanding. We're talking about space and creating space and understanding that black boys, black men, despite upholding the patriarchy and upholding
Mhm.
all of these things, right? They're still severely impacted by it, right?
Yes.
And have been denied space. One of
Mhm.
my, my homie, they was like, I told him I was starting a group. This was actually 6-year anniversary of the hashtag You Good Man group that I have here in Philly was yesterday. And when I
Congratulations.
told them I was
Yeah.
starting a
Congrats.
group, they was like, well, how does this differ from the barbershop? And I was just like, well, because it's me leading it. You know what I mean? Like it's a difference. But the thing is, when the brother's in there, and I use the example and I tend to use, I said, listen, if a brother is in there and he's like, yo, this B is getting on my nerves. I know if he says that in the street, unless he can make it's a dope beat behind it. But I know if he says it in the street, he gonna be pushed aside.
Mhm.
Nobody's gonna care about how he's feeling, what he meant. And so that's the thing. For me, it was just like, all right, yeah, we definitely want to understand like what you mean by that. Like, what are you experiencing? And
Mhm.
then the comfort in you using that word. Why does that exist?
Yeah.
Right. And so doing the things, but black men don't necessarily have that space, right? And we do it, it's a result of us. It's a result of women and our non-binary folk and other, folk, however folk identify, for
Mhm.
upholding things like patriarchy and white supremacy and
We all
capitalism
do
that
it. That's
that
right.
made that made this, this type of work impossible to where we're able to be free and be in a healthy way. But when we
Mm.
talk about just this idea of like liberation, we talk about the reason why I'm going to this group, the reason why how I talk about Eurocentric psychology and mental health is like these systems mean us no good, right? And
Mm.
Yeah.
so they must be dismantled. And so when we talk
They
about
mean us harm.
liberation, we have to dismantle the systems that's traumatized and oppressed us,
Mhm.
and create frameworks that prioritize things like community, like well-being, like joy, like humanity. You know what I mean? And so, but what that requires is a vulnerability. If we talk about black men, it requires
Mm.
self-reflection, and again,
Yeah.
it requires community,
Mm.
and so that's that's all I got.
This is one hell of a note to end on.
Okay. Mic drop.
Yeah, absolutely.
Love it. Love
Absolutely.
it. Love it.
I also
Cannot.
appreciate how much
Go
community
ahead.
has
Sir.
been. Oh, sorry. I just appreciate how much you've dropped community during the course of this conversation, right? I just
Mhm.
just wanted to like say that.
Yeah, because it's we don't do this alone. Like none of this is alone.
No.
Like
No way.
it's community, like community exists. And that's the
Mm.
thing when we talk about like the regular individualism, this is like, yo, you just out here by yourself. And that's not true. Whether it's somebody, that's helping you through school, or somebody
No.
who's helping you stay alive by stopping at the red light. You know what I mean? And not blowing past through it. Like we engage in community all day every day. You know what I
Yes,
mean?
sir.
Community
Yeah.
is I'm about to go in here and watch Gangs of London. You know what I'm saying? Like community is them folk did they acting thing, right? And
Mhm.
producing and folk did put capitalism under all of this that allows me to watch it. You know what I'm saying? And so now what we talk about, that's a broader sense of community. Now we need to start to really get into the ones that really um uplift us and help us as we navigate this difficult journey, the ones that we can touch, the ones that we can feel. But yeah, it's because when I think about just the journey that I've been on, man, it's always been like people around. It's
Totally.
always been people around. And that's the
Mm.
thing when you navigate your mental health and you got all of these things, again, you think that it's just you, but then you
That's
realize
right.
this is what anxiety or depression should. You
Yes.
find out this little white
Yeah.
woman
Yeah.
is just
Yes.
like, yo, what's up? What we doing? We out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So many
Yeah.
things go to isolate us or make us feel isolated when all we have to do is look around and realize that we're never alone and we don't have to do
exactly.
anything alone. I've like personally just gotten to a point in my life where I'm like, you know what? I'm not doing shit by myself again. Like I'm going to engage my community for all things.
Yeah, yeah, it's important. And I think too, just that balance. We know that some things we do absolutely need some solitude for, but community is really, I think, super important. And what I'm walking away with from what you've left with us is really like the importance and the power of vulnerability. Because
Yeah.
vulnerability was what, created that opportunity for you to have that conversation with that woman, just walking around with that shirt on and just being able to ask for help, which is something that's so hard for many of us, myself included. So yes, absolutely. Thank you for sharing that.
Oh, for sure,
Mhm.
for sure.
I've really enjoyed this, Phil. Thank you so much.
Oh,
So good.
thanks for having me.
Thank you for your time. We are going to be in communication with you within the next couple of days. Once we wrap up and do all the editing and all that kind of stuff, and then we'll send over some snippets and get your approval and some
Oh yeah, you
feedback
ain't
from you.
listen. You don't need my approval for nothing, man.
You sure?
Listen, what's supposed to be out there is gonna be out there. You know,
Okay.
yeah. Like when I do my joints, you know what I mean. Like rarely do I edit unless it's something where
Okay.
it's just like, all right, listen. But it's just like, yo, I can't concern myself with that, because what'll
Okay.
happen is again, just this knowledge of self, right? I know send it over and be like, I hate how this sounds. You know what I mean? I
Mm,
hate how like I won't listen to this. I
okay.
won't. These are things that I learned how to navigate. And there's no shade to
Right, right,
I
right.
listen,
No,
I've
it's
listened to
self-awareness.
to other stuff, but it's just like, nah, because what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna be overly critical of myself. I'm gonna say,
Yeah.
how many times did I say how many times did I
Uh-huh.
say and so
Why does my
it's just
voice
gonna be
sound like that?
yeah, it's exactly. It's gonna be
For
like
real.
it's gonna be a slippery slope. So it's just like, you know what? I trust y'all. I wouldn't be on here if I didn't. And
We appreciate you
We
and that
appreciate
trust.
you. Yeah,
Thank
hell yeah.
you. Thank you.
you
Okay.
can lead it, y'all can lead that in too.
Yeah.
No,
Leave
because
everything in. Don't take
yeah,
anything out.
it's real.
Yeah, hell yeah. This has been wonderful. Thank you so
Yeah.
much for sharing your expertise with us.